Morning YouTube, I'm just going to do another short video on this King James only. I've got there's some real half-wits on YouTube coming out with ridiculous statements and comments about the King James. I'm going to upload a video I played yesterday. Again, I'm going to make this point a few times.
Eric, you don't want to listen to God's word. You just want to talk over the top of me and lie. And Bob, you think you can do better than the King James Bible? God didn't give us the King James Bible. Why do you think the King James is so special? Why? How are you so stupid that you think that Jesus Christ came down 400 years ago? There's no record of it, but he appeared on earth and inspired the King James. Where do you get that from, and why is that more important than the actual biblical gospel? Why don't you teach what the King James says? All appeared on earth and inspired the King James translation. Why do you think the King James is so special? Why? How are you so stupid that you think that Jesus Christ came down 400 years ago? There's no record of it, but he appeared.
I've never said that. I made a bad recording of that. I might just go back and do it again, which is no hassle to me, assuming his video is still up. Who says that?
Appeared on earth and inspired the King James translators. Where on earth do you get that from, and why is that more important than the actual biblical gospel? Why don't you?
I've never said that. I've never heard any Christian who only uses the KJV, or even those that don't use the KJV, ever even imply that about any King James onlyist. I mean, this is beyond ridiculous. I probably will do that recording again. I probably I forgot about the mic button on my little app there that you can see.
Teach what the King James says. All you do on your channel is play what other people have to say, and you go, I don't agree with that.
Yeah. Where I go, I record. If I'm watching a video on YouTube or wherever, I'll usually record it. Not every time. And I don't whinge all the time about, you need to stop just being abusive, because you're making a laughing stock, really, Graham, of the body of Christ, because, believe it or not, and I'm not white knighting for atheists, atheists know perfectly well how Christians are supposed to behave and conduct themselves. Right? I'm not going to play that. I'll go back and do the recording again. I'll tidy it up. I've got another one here. This is for Skylar Fiction. Bear with me a second.
Some like David Crystal would. And so, but yeah, coming back to the original about the LXX, The LXX has holes, it has problems. Now, where it is good is that quite a lot of it does back up the Masoretic text, but there are corruptions in it. So I guess it's like in 2,000 years' time, you finding a King James and finding a copy of Scrivener's TR, and then you found the Jehovah's Witness Bible as well. And you're like, okay. If you just sort of cut off the problems that they have, you can go, okay, well, that obviously in say John chapter 1 verse 1,
Sorry
it
about
all
that.
agrees except for where it says a God. So we can go, well, there's in that verse there's 90% agreement, and so you have another document that is just most of the time agreeing with the Masoretic text. Nick says, I recorded that. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. No worries, Bob. Okay, so we'll just see what these guys got to say.
They are
Agrees in say John chapter 1 verse 1, it all agrees except for where it says a God. So we can go, well, there's in that verse there's 90% agreement, and so you have another document that is just most of the time agreeing with the Masoretic text. Nick says, I recorded that. Thank you. I appreciate it, like David Crystal would. And so, but yeah, coming back to the original about the LXX, the LXX has holes, it has problems. Now, where it is good is that quite a lot of it does back up the Masoretic text, but there are corruptions in it. So I guess it's like in 2,000 years' time. No worries, Bob. Okay, so we'll just see what these guys got to say.
they are
I uploaded the wrong file. I should have just put a title in it so I knew. But no big deal. Basically, Nick Sayers has given me permission to record any of his videos, to live stream them. I did play that yesterday. Morning, Conrad. That's a 10-minute one. I'll upload this one.
I was talking about for someone like David Crystal would. And so, but yeah, coming back to the original about the
Basically, Skylar Fiction has falsely accused me of stealing Nick Sayers' stuff. He specifically gave me permission to do anything I wanted with his videos. A live stream about an hour and a half of one of his videos. They are quite long. Then Skylar Fiction came in, not that I care what he thinks, accused me of stealing. I've got permission from Nick Sayers himself, because I have had him on my channel. He was kind enough to come on. I wouldn't call it an interview, it was just a discussion. I wanted to ask questions. I wanted to get his channel out there, you know. Skylar doesn't like it. The fact is, where I go, I record most of the time. So I've got a record of it, or, because as you know, people do delete the channels, not channels, videos afterwards. Which is up to them, but I've got a record. I mean, there's quite a few dumpster fires on YouTube. I don't win to just make comments on this really stupid stuff that people say, like Graham Gould. Graham Gould is trying to say that I've said that Jesus came down and got the King James Bible translated and or something. It's just nutty. Unbelievable.
XX. The LXX is has holes, it has problems. Now, where it is good is that quite a lot of it does back up the Masoretic text, but there are corruptions in it. So I guess it's like in 2,000 years' time, you finding a King James and finding a copy of Scrivener's TR, and then you found the Jehovah's Witness Bible as well, and you're like, okay. If you just sort of cut off the problems that they have, you can go, okay, well, that obviously this agrees in say John chapter 1 verse 1. It all agrees except for where it says a God. So we can go, well, there's
Keep getting the wrong video. I uploaded it. I've forgotten that I'd uploaded it yesterday into my StreamYard.
what I was talking about, but someone like David Crystal would. And so but yeah, coming back to the original about the LXX, the LXX is has holes, it has problems. Now, where it is good is that quite a lot of it does back up the Masoretic text, but there are corruptions in it. So I guess it's like in 2,000 years' time, you finding a King James and finding a copy of Scrivener's TR, and then you found the Jehovah's Witness Bible as well, and you're like, okay. If you just sort of cut off the problems that they have, you can go, okay, well, that obviously this agrees in say John chapter 1 verse 1. It all agrees except for where it says a God. So we can go, well, there's in that verse there's 90% agreement, and so you have another document that is just most of the time agreeing with the Masoretic text. Nick says, I recorded that. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. No worries, Bob. Okay, so we'll just see
Understand what's
these
going on
guys have
here.
to say.
Oh, you have to bear with me. I've either misplaced the recording or just lost it or something. I'm going to have to find it again. I'm going to put it on screen. I'm going to share screen. I'm going to really be more careful about putting titles on these videos that I download. I'll put a link to this in there so you can go and see it for yourself. I'll find out where exactly. Morning, Conrad. That said, and then right. Oh, where is it? Sorry about this. This must be intensely boring, but I don't mean Nick Sayers. Me trying to find. I don't know what happened to that recording. I'm going to have to do it again. This must be the wrong video. It might have been part 1. Oh, let's have a look.
They're just throwing a fiery dart into your mind. From
Oh yeah, it was a wrong video. A bit awkward to keep track of.
Context.
Well, it kind of depends who you ask.
Looked it up in all the dictionaries, and I'm like, I can't get around that. That's a problem in that new Bible. The King James reads better, and so when I read,
Oh, Struve. I know where it is. And where is it? So it is a 10-minute video, right? Oh dear. I might even do this again.
doesn't believe in inspiration or preservation. There's someone like the AV1611TR, so that will be Bob, says, I got accused of stealing your stuff by Skylar Fiction for streaming your video. I don't know who Skylar Fiction is, and so anyone can grab my stuff, Bob. You can use it whenever you want. You can do whatever you want with my videos. You have my permission. So you can cut that little bit out and show that to Skylar Fiction. In inspiration. He doesn't believe in inspiration or preservation. There's someone like the AV1611TR, so that will be Bob, says, I got accused of stealing your stuff by Skylar Fiction for streaming your video. I don't know who Skylar Fiction is, and so anyone can grab my stuff, Bob. You can use it whenever you want. You can do whatever you want with my videos. You have my permission. So you can cut that little bit out and show that to Skylar Fiction. Nick says, is the LXX reliable? Only asking. The LXX is terribly unreliable. It was probably more reliable back when it was penned, probably even by some leading members of the early church. It could have even been done by apostles. But I don't think that those editions actually have survived. What's happened is there's been nationalism has gotten involved. And so we see this, it's quite evident when you go to the Italian church, the Roman Catholic Church. We're the Italians, we're the best, Italy, Rome, we've got the history. And so you sort of see this type of thing in the American churches. And so, any president, all of a sudden, it doesn't matter if they're slapping women across the face, and they're like a gangster. They could be full gangster, having prostitutes and doing whatever. If they become the president, they're saved. You just ask, half of the Bible Belt. It's like, well, Donald Trump's a born-again Christian, and all it takes is for his wife to say the Lord's Prayer, and she's full on. She's living for God, and it's quite a strange thing. But we see this throughout history, and so what we see is sometimes when God uses a certain people, they can get quite prideful about this. And so obviously the Jews have had this problem where they've had to deal with pride, and so they've been humbled quite a lot of times throughout history. We see this with it's almost like everywhere there has been some sort of influence for God, what you'll see is later on people tend to, or that culture tends to degrade. And so we see that with like the birth, or not the birth, but a resurgence of Christianity in Germany, with Luther and the reformers. But then what's Germany known for in our generation? It's known for Hitler and World War II and horrible atrocities. And so it's almost like the devil delights in that. The devil delights to turn the church into a cult or something like that, or turn the church building into, a brothel. Yeah, that's the type of mentality that seems to happen with Satan. And so what I think happened, the Greek church, they became quite prideful, even to the point where they were saying the Greek text is better than the Hebrew text. There were a lot of editions done, but the main Septuagint edition that became quite popular was the fifth column of Origen's Hexapla. And but when you read the works of someone like William Whitaker in 1588, he was saying that the LXX that we have today, so in 1588, differs amazingly from the Hebrew. And so in the early church, they were saying it was identical to the Hebrew. It was very good. So I think there's been a degrading, and just like with other things, like the Bible has been kept preserved to us today. But when you look at translations and things like that, sometimes these translations can be done well in the beginning, but then after a while, after it's gone through a few translation committees and gone through a few persecutions, and that they can become corrupted. And some cults, we know the Jehovah's Witnesses are out to put their doctrines into the Bible. This has happened all throughout history. And so we know there were people like Marcion about trying to basically write the Bible as they saw fit. They weren't faithful in just copying the Bible and giving it out. They wanted to spread it around and cause problems. And I think the Greek church had a lot of big problems. And this has to be taken into consideration when people are just simply going with the majority text, but people are not looking at what the Orthodox Church became. I mean, it's just sort of Roman Catholicism. It's because it's Greek, it's good. That's what they think in their mind. It's Greek, it's good, even though they're just like the Catholics. And it's like, so, if it's Latin, it's evil. That's Roman Catholic. And so when you're saying, okay, well, there's this reading, it's in Latin, in Greek, and you going through certain things, people just tend to go Greek, all the way through. Now, I understand that, and I understand the difference between the Greek and the Latin is the Greek can just be simply copied out, but the Latin has to be translated. But a translation from a Greek document into Latin is still a representation of a Greek document. And so these things have to be taken into consideration. There's a lot of areas where we've made them simply black and white, and I find majority text people can be there. And so when it comes to the LXX, the Orthodox Church, they follow the LXX. They believe the LXX is their Bible. They believe the Hebrew is completely corrupted, and there's problems with that. So when you're going with a majority text person, they're going, oh, we go with the Hebrew, but then they go with the Greek, which was kept in custody by the Byzantine Church, which had problems. And so that's why it took people of great skill who knew Latin, who knew the early church writings, who knew commentaries, who could look at all these things. And someone who could read through a Greek document or a Latin document and spot homoioteuton, for example, or architeuton, or some sort of parablepsis. Like Erasmus could do that at the drop of a hat. He could do this. Like someone like Bartman, he wouldn't be able to do this. He wouldn't be able to do this in English. I don't think. It would take quite a while for him to spot something like that in English, let alone to be able to do it in Latin, let alone to be able to do it in Greek. And so, and the reason I'm saying in English, I understand he's written books that are quite famous, and so why would I make that type of accusation? There's a difference between what Bart Ehrman's doing and, say, someone like a David Crystal type of person who knows the English language, or all the ins and outs of the English language. Bart Ehrman doesn't even know the basics of the King James Version, which is like a cornerstone of the English language. He is actually quite illiterate when it comes. When I say illiterate, it doesn't mean you can't read. Illiterate has two meanings. One of them is that there are certain fields which you don't know much about. Now, Bart, he does know about the critical text. He knows about his field there. But when it comes to, like, say, if I was to quiz him on the history of the English language and to go through, like, if I had him and David Crystal sitting next to each other, and I was to ask them the same questions, say going through Middle English and going through Bible translation methodology, going through what Tyndale said and what the Great Bible said, and then the bishops, what that said and what the King James said, like Bart Ehrman would just be lost, and he'd be looking for anecdotes, he'd be looking for something, to get the audience laughing or whatever. Where someone like David Crystal, when I wrote my first Easter article back in 2005, I shared it with him, and he said it was good, but he offered me some suggestions because I was trying to relate the word Esther, nothing to do with Esther in the Bible, but E-S-T-E-R, because it's an old way of spelling Easter. I was trying to relate that to Oster in German, and trying to say, well, that was a connection that shows that it was a Germanic connection. He said, no, the Germanic connection is already there. Just the A ended up being there in East because it's in East. And he said, this is just a different way of writing around the United Kingdom. That sometimes church was spelled with an E on the end. Sometimes it just had, it was like Kirk with an E on the end. But they were pretty much the same type of word. So it was just variation of spelling. And so he knew that straight away, instantly. If I was to ask Bart Ehrman that, he'd go, "Oh, Easter is a pagan holiday." Yeah, he wouldn't really be able to interact on that type of level. Now, I'm not saying that I always interact on that level in everything I do, but sometimes I do a deep dive into things, and you know that you know stuff on it, and you'll ask. He doesn't believe in inspiration or preservation. There's someone like the AV1611TR, so that will be Bob, says, I got accused of stealing your stuff by Skylar Fiction for streaming your video. I don't know who Skylar Fiction is, and so anyone can grab my stuff, Bob. You can use it whenever you want. You can do whatever you want with my videos. You have my permission. So you can cut that little bit out and show that to Skylar Fiction.
Right, there are a few other things here I'm going to share with you. This is how... hold on. Oh, yeah. Can you believe the title of this article here? This is by Mark Ward. Nick Sayers is regularly pointing out the lies and fallaciousness of Mark Ward. This is a video, sorry, not an video, an article done on October 9th, 2020. How to rescue people from the trap of KJV onlyism. I'm going to link this in the side chat if you want to read it. I'm not going to read it out loud. No chance. I will put a link to it though. It'll be a tight, shortened Don't worry, it's not spam or any of that stuff. Yeah, how to rescue people. I'm not in a trap. I'm KJV only. I have been for 30 years. Oh, wow. He's quoting 1 Corinthians 14 here. Says edification requires intelligibility. I don't remember reading that in my King James Bible. And the English of the KJV is no longer fully intelligible. That is a lie. That is absolute tosh. Mark Ward? Wow. He's almost as nutty as Graham Cracker. I don't know. I can't remember why Dave calls him Graham Cracker now. Oh well. Numerous archaic word lists. Let's have a look. All you got to do how difficult is it to find out where the word occurs in other scripture? In your King James, you'll get a definition. That's fallacious. The reading age of the King James, as far as I know, is about age 11 or 12. It might have gone up a bit, especially in the USA, because they're a bit thick over there. They don't want ordinary people learning to read or even reading properly. And it's one thing to read a text out, it's another one to comprehend. You know, having diction and knowing the meanings of words. The King James is not a difficult read. It does make you slow down a bit. Most difficult. It's obviously difficult for Graham. But Graham's going to update the King James, aren't you? Not bad. Now then. Oh yeah, this is another interesting article you might want to check out for yourself. Exegetical fallacies. I'm not saying everything on this website is perfect, but it's worth reading through. I'm going to share the tab and I'm going to share the link. Shortened Earl. Loads of other stuff on there. I do intend to look. But here's a link to it, and you can find the other articles on there. There's an article here on the Septuagint in the Encyclopedia Britannica. Oh, there's more articles on this topic. Basically, the Catholics use it. I've got a Septuagint on my bookshelf there. I've been meaning to. I have started reading the introduction. Oh, let me share this page. The link's going into the side chat now. Check it out. Bill, if you're there, do you want to come in? I'm going to send an invite to your Facebook if you're there. He might be busy. Anyway. Yeah, I'm going to be more careful about putting titles on my recorded videos. It's a 10-minute one anyway. I'm going to edit it. Now then, I've got some other recordings. I haven't uploaded all of them to YouTube. I will be doing. I've never thought that. Graham is not privy to my thoughts. He's a dummy. Really. A liar. Aren't you, Graham? Graham, let me tell you that even if you reconcile with Bill and this, that and the other, which will be fine, you know, don't ever come to my channel expecting to get in, because you won't. It's not going to happen. I do forgive you. I just do not ever want to be talking to you. Wow.
Eric, you don't want to listen to God's word. You just want to talk over the top of me and lie. And Bob, you think you can do better than the King James Bible? God didn't give us the King James Bible. Why do you think the King James is so special? Why? How are you so stupid that you think that Jesus Christ came down 400 years ago? There's no record of it, but he appeared.
Who says that, Graham? Not me, you dummy.
Appeared on earth and inspired the King James translators. Where on earth do you get that from? And why is that more important than the actual biblical gospel? Why don't you teach what the King James says? All you do on your channel
I have
is
never
play
said
what other
it.
people have to say and you go, I don't agree with that. You're a useless human being. Look not every man on his own things.
Liar, aren't you, Graham? I'll be tagging this up later so you can hear me tell you that you're a liar. Surely you know that. You know perfectly well I've never said any such thing. Ever.
But every man also on
You
the
won't
things of
watch
others.
videos,
Let
you know,
this mind
Anyway. Hey there, Bill. I sent him a link on Facebook. I don't know who's live at the moment. Right, I'm going to post a link to Nick Sayers' channel. Go check out his videos. Most of them are quite long. Average of about 2 hours, between 2 and 3 hours. Um,